I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. If it feels like everyone is suddenly talking about Richmond, Virginia, and you're not imagining it, people are moving here in 2026 on purpose, not as a backup plan, not because they ran out of options somewhere else. They're choosing it. And what surprises most people is why. Richmond is one of those hidden gem cities that stays off a lot of top 10 lists, but quietly works really well once you understand it. It's underrated, not flashy, not trying to impress you. And that's exactly the point. You can fit the James River into a workday here. You can grab coffee without circling for parking. You can actually be home for dinner without feeling like the day already won. That's why people are moving to Richmond. And it's also why it doesn't click for everyone. Some people move here and immediately feel it. Others move here and 6 months later feel unsettled, like they missed something. Same city, different experience. So if you're thinking about relocating to Richmond, or you already live here and you're trying to understand why this place feels different than anywhere else you've lived, stay with me, because once you understand how people actually structure their lives here, you'll know pretty quickly whether Richmond should be at the top of your list or whether you should slow down and think through the move a little more carefully. I've watched people experience Richmond in very different ways. Some move here expecting non-stop big city energy and feel frustrated. Others arrive with fewer assumptions and settle into a rhythm that just works. This city doesn't announce what it offers. It reveals it through routine. I had a client tell me once, I didn't realize how much mental energy I was spending every day until I moved here. That realization hit them on a random Tuesday morning sitting at a red light, windows down, realizing they weren't already exhausted before the day even started. They had just moved near Carytown and hadn't thought much about it, but their days felt different. That's when Richmond starts to make sense. It doesn't sell itself. It rewards you when your routines stop fighting the city. And that's where people get tripped up. You don't stumble into the right setup here by accident, but once you land in the right place, your weeks feel less compressed, which brings us to the first thing you need to understand. Nothing here tries very hard to impress you. It just slowly rearranges your day. You notice it in the mornings first. You wake up and you're not already behind. You're not bracing for traffic, noise, or chaos. You can run an errand, grab coffee, or even get down to the James River before work. And it doesn't feel like a logistical event. There's space between things here, not empty space, usable space. The average commute sits in the low 20-minute range. But what really changes things is predictability. And with about a quarter of the workforce working from home at least part of the week, the city moves differently during the day. Afternoons have energy. Trails are active, neighborhoods feel alive. Carytown on a weekday hums without feeling frantic. Then nighttime hits and Richmond downshifts. Restaurants close earlier than many people expect. Streets quiet out. Nobody's trying to keep things loud just to prove something. That calm either feels like relief or it feels unsettling. This city isn't slow, it's selective. If you expect non-stop stimulation everywhere you go, you'll think something's missing. If you care about days that flow and nights that let you reset, it gets under your skin quickly. And if that sounds like the life you're trying to build, you don't figure that out by scrolling listings. You figure it out by understanding where your days will actually land. And just so you know where I'm coming from, I'm a native Richmonder, and I specialize in helping people relocate here. This is what I do every day. And if you reach out, you're talking directly to me, not a team handoff, not a call center, me. Because relocation works best when someone actually understands how the city lives. People underestimate this all the time. In many cities, neighborhood choices come down to price, commute, maybe schools. In Richmond, daily experience varies dramatically from place to place. Two neighborhoods can be 10 minutes apart and feel like completely different routine. The Fan feels lived in the moment you step onto the sidewalk. Brick buildings, dogs being walked at all hours, coffee shops that feel like part of the neighborhood, not a destination. Short Pump, by contrast, is smoother, newer, quieter, and much more car-based. Life there is efficient and predictable. Neither is better. They're just different. Walkability here can swing dramatically over a short distance, and you feel that difference every day, not just on weekends. Church Hill offers views and history you notice immediately. Scott's Addition feels newer, denser, louder, and still evolving. That's why general advice about living in Richmond often falls flat. People aren't moving evenly across the map, but they're choosing specific areas based on how they want their days to feel. Quick check for you. What matters more right now? Walkability, space, quiet, or being close to activity? That answer points you towards very different parts of the region. People experience Richmond differently depending on what they value day to day. If you want life to feel manageable instead of manic, this city tends to work well. Hybrid workers, remote professionals, and families who want evenings back often find a good rhythm here. You see it when people can grab coffee, get outside for a bit, handle their workday, and still feel human by dinner. At the same time, Richmond can feel overwhelming if you expect constant activity. Restaurants close earlier, events aren't staffed every night, and if you land in an area that doesn't match your expectations, the disconnect can happen quickly. Career-wise, this is a stable market, not explosive. That's a benefit for some people and a frustration for others. And there's a personality element too. Richmond has older homes, strong opinions, and neighborhoods that aren't trying to be everything at once. If you like places that feel human and imperfect, it often resonates. If you want everything shiny and uniform, it could feel like friction. That's why opinions about living here vary so widely. Richmond doesn't reshape itself to fit you. It asks you to be honest about what you want. Growth can show up in a lot of ways. Sometimes it's loud, sometimes it's chaotic, sometimes it's all cranes, headlines, and hype. Other times it shows up as pressure you feel before you ever see it. A little more traffic on familiar routes, homes getting absorbed without spectacle, neighborhoods tightening quietly instead of flipping overnight. That's the kind of growth we're talking about here, and it's because growth here is driven by people choosing the region, not speculation or a single hot industry. The economy is diversified. Housing supply moves slowly. Demand stays steady. A big reason is who is moving here. The data keeps pointing to migration-led growth, not a baby boom and not speculative rush. In plain terms, more people are choosing this region on purpose than stumbling into it. Since 2020, the metro has stayed net positive on domestic migration every single year, even while a lot of bigger markets cooled off. The region added tens of thousands of new residents over that stretch, and the majority landing outside the urban core, not flooding one shiny downtown. That growth is spreading into places like Henrico, Hanover, Goochland, and Chesterfield counties, where lifestyle and space matter more than skyline views. The economy plays a huge role here too. Richmond isn't powered by one hot industry that can disappear overnight. Finance, healthcare, logistics, higher education, and government all anchor the market. Employers like Capital One and institutions tied to the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond create stability that smooths out the housing market. Job growth here is steady rather than explosive, which is exactly why housing doesn't whiplash the way it does in boom and bust cities. Richmond isn't turning into something else in 2026. It's tightening into what it already is. That's an important distinction. A lot of people expect some dramatic shift, a crash, a boom, a reset that suddenly makes everything obvious. That's not how this market behaves. What's changing instead is how people move through it. Buyers are slower, but more intentional. They're asking better questions. They're spending more time understanding neighborhoods instead of just watching interest rates. And that shift matters here more than in many cities. Supply is still the limiter. New construction hasn't caught up with household formation, and that gap isn't closing overnight. Even when listings tick up, the right home in the right areas continue to move steadily, especially in entry-level and move-up price points. You can already feel the difference on the ground. Homes aren't flying off the shelf in a weekend the way they did at peak frenzy. But well-located, well-priced homes don't sit around either. The margin for error is just smaller now. Hybrid work plays a bigger role in this. It's no longer an experiment, it's the baseline, and that changes why people buy. Daily routines matter more than commute math. Errands, access, and how a neighborhood feels on a random Wednesday now carry more weight than timing the market perfectly. That's why between now and the end of 2026, location choice will matter more than market timing. Here's the honest truth. People don't move to Richmond because it's cheap. They move because their life suddenly feels lighter. The pressure comes off in small, everyday ways. You stop planning your week around parking. You don't hesitate as much before going out. You're not constantly doing mental math just to exist. Housing gets most of the attention, but the relief shows up everywhere else. Groceries don't feel like a gamble. Utilities are predictable. You're not paying a premium just to be near normal daily services. That difference adds up. It doesn't mean you stop budgeting. It means budgeting stops running your life. And that's why so many people describe the move as relief instead of excitement. It's not about scoring a deal. It's about escaping pressure. Now, real talk. Richmond isn't cheap in a careless way. Older housing stock means maintenance. Utilities, insurance still matter. Taxes still count. But these are manageable trade-offs, not constant stressors. Especially compared to higher cost metros, the cost of living here gives people breathing room to plan, room to save, room to make decisions based on lifestyle instead of panic. Moving smart in Richmond isn't about predicting a crash or waiting for a perfect rate. It's about stacking small advantages early before the window feels obvious to everyone else. The first rule is simple. Pick lifestyle before price. Every pattern I see points to the same outcome. People who anchor on how they want their days to feel tend to stay happy. People who chase what looks like a deal often end up moving again. The second rule: watch absorption, not headlines. Richmond doesn't move all at once. Pressure shows up in specific segments first. Entry-level and move-up homes tighten long before higher-end listings do. That's why some neighborhoods stay competitive even when the broader market feels slower. The third rule: understand the housing stock before it surprises you. A lot of homes here have character and age. That's not a downside, but it does require planning. Roofs, HVAC systems, and maintenance cycles matter more than trendy finishes. Buyers who understand that up front feel confident. Buyers who don't often feel blindsided. And finally, track momentum at the neighborhood level. Growth here layers in. It doesn't flip a switch citywide. You can feel it in certain areas months before it shows up in the data. Those are pressure zones, not hype zones, and pressure zones reward preparation, not panic. Richmond doesn't reward hype. It rewards people who understand how the city actually works. We talked about why people are choosing Richmond in 2026, not as a fallback, but as a lifestyle decision. Why daily life here feels different, why neighborhood choice matters more than timing, and why the cost of living feels like relief instead of a discount. I see these differences play out all of the time, like the buyer who thought walkable and trendy was the goal, then realized a few months in that daily ease mattered more. Or the person who waited for the perfect moment and watched the exact pocket they loved tighten while the rest of the market cooled. Same city, different outcomes. That's why strategy matters here. And that's why I do what I do. I'm a native Richmonder, and I help people buy, sell, and relocate here with clarity instead of guesswork. If Richmond is even on your short list, reach out, call, text, email, or grab a time on my calendar. And when you do, you'll be talking directly with me.